Bread is a testament to patience, time-honored traditions, and sustenance in the most basic form. You know, every culture has some type of bread. You go to India, they got naan bread. You go to France, they have baguettes. You go to Trinidad, you have bake. All over the world, bread has been the most rudimentary sustenance around the globe. So I'm honoring that tradition here, making bread in this oven. So fire back there. It's nice and hot. All right.
Mandingo, I'm a working stiff, working with shoulder weight super heavy, I'm working a lift. Built to last, a runaway, runaway, runaway,
We're at a place called the Montgomery Inn. So this is the home of the Montgomery family, which was also a part in hotel lodging for people coming through the area. Also, there is a bar in here, a saloon, a gathering area, and there's some meeting rooms upstairs. But this was a hub of the community, essentially, right? A lot of American freed slaves ended up in those pockets. So you see like Oakville, Gray County, up in this pocket here, a lot of free slaves ended up working in these pockets of Ontario specifically. And there's a trajectory directly from Harriet Tubman's line on the Underground Railroad coming into this part of Southern Ontario.
So 1967, Sidney Poitier, guess who's coming to dinner?
I've lived that many times. When I'm traveling the South, I think of that. I mean, it's constantly, I'm like hyper vigilant, like a PTSD victim, literally, right? When I'm maneuvering everywhere in many parts of the American South, right? First walked into this room, initially I had the same thought. It's like, wow, at a different time, I would never be able to walk into this room. Again, I've like been conditioned by this thing all along.
Yeah, that's how you're programmed to survive, right? Like on some really fundamental level, your body and your brain said this is how you survive.
And then you take it one step further, and you have to like reprogram to prosper. In other words, survival and prosper are a different thing, right? So you have to like reprogram to prosper. And it's like most people never get there. Right?
Yeah, that's a very good point, yeah.
To survive and to even begin the idea of prospering, you needed to be that much more on time, that much more on top of it, that much more, I don't want to say talented, but committed maybe.
You can say talented.
Okay. But no, for real. Like you had to exhibit like 4 times the amount to even be considered relevant. Is that on your mind when you enter a space?
Yeah, like it's one of these That's such a good question, but it's one of these questions that like I never really reflect on until I'm asked it because it's like automatic. It's like how I've learned how to live. Is like I'm going into a new space. What do I anticipate the attitude to me will be? And
it's subconscious on levels too.
Yes.
It's not even always conscious, right?
no, exactly. Like I've never really reflected on it. It's like, yes, of course. I always think about that. But until you ask the question, it's just so second nature. I never really think about it.
So I think of it a lot in terms of football players, and I'm not a huge football fan by any stretch of the imagination, right? But I look at it in that context, and I think they're being embraced for their talent, their skill, their expertise, their blah, 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 blah. But I've been around the sensibility of a lot of people who subscribe to that audience, and they wouldn't let you in their house, bro. I once worked at this very prominent hotel in the GTA. I was coming out of the lunchroom. I was a sandwich cook, bro, right? Line cook, $11 an hour, right? Not that long ago. And I look at the lunchroom, and outside the lunchroom, they have pictures of all the executive chefs across the whole company. So one day I looked at the board, as I looked, and I know they got properties in like, the Bahamas, like a lot of black people in the Caribbean, like, look at Jamaica, no, not one single person looked like me, right? So I was like, wow, my opportunities here probably are not very great, but let me ask. So I went to the executive chef's office, right? Chef, can I ask you a question? Yeah, my door's always open, Raj, come on in, right? Let's go on in. I go, Chef, I can't help but notice that like, all the people on this board outside the lunchroom, and there's, places in the Caribbean that are like predominantly black people, not one person on that board looks like me. You know what he said to me? And I think about it to this day as an employer, and it still shocks me, and this is 100% facts, okay? He says, it just doesn't seem like y'all are that interested. Dude, I walked in your office because I was interested, bro. I actually walked in because I'm interested. It's hot out here, boy.
And I'm tired. It's getting hot and the fire and smoke's up. The pressure's really cooking and it's whipping them folks up.
Did you feel you were lonely? Like, did you grow up feeling lonely?
That's an interesting question. Did I grow up feeling lonely? So to answer the question of loneliness is a tricky conundrum, but like you, I discovered hip hop. And like Nucleus, Jam On It. Like the first rap I learned was Jam On It, bro. Like, and if you know that rap, it's probably 500 straight bars, right? So I discovered that and I realized, wow, I love this. And so I started doing that. And that was my outlet and still is my outlet. One of my main outlets for just sanity, like just processing ideas, emotions, thoughts. I've been doing that since I was before I was a teenager,
But the connection, hey? Like the first time you made that connection, that you realized that there was something bigger that you didn't fully understand, but it was suddenly yours?
Well, it's interesting because it's the first time that I saw people that looked like me in my generation. So I could look at like Bill Withers, Aretha Franklin, and they looked like me, but they were singing the style that I love, but I knew it was my parents' era, right? It wasn't me. But then you have The Message come out, and he's talking about stuff that I understood. Or KRS-One was like a father figure, He taught me how to be a man. Like Chuck D, like showed you how to be a man in the world, So, yes, saved my life.
And I'm tired of
Oh, it's a potty? Is it a potty?
Spittoon.
Oh, it's a spittoon.
Yeah.
Right,
So they would also have a chamber pot here too.
Right.
And I gotta say, it made sense to me. Honey, I don't really want to get up. I'm just eating.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna poop here.
There's 4 feet of snow out there.
Yeah. Are we good?
Yeah. Pass the meatloaf.
I gotta build something for myself because I don't want to be doing twice the work of like doing the work and also contending with these perceptions of my abilities and my limitations. I gotta just be over here and just build it.
Hey, yo, bro, you're smart, educated, handsome, tall. You're in a good situation, you know, dog, right?
Yeah.
But still, I tell my kids all the time, life is not fair. They're 3 years old, I've been telling them this. Life is not fair, but that does not mean that you do not have to act fairly. Two very different things. And I think a lot of people grow up thinking that if you do good, good will happen to you, which is true. That does circulate, right? Absolutely. Goodwill is king, right? And it's one of my mottos in life. Goodwill is king, okay? So I don't ever remember expecting fairness.
I've led my life the same way and maybe not even consciously recognizing it, but like everything's cool till something goes wrong. That's my mentality for us.
Explain it.
Okay, so what I mean is like, I'm comfortable eating in a nice restaurant, but what I'm scared of is like if there's some issue with my debit card.
Right, they're like, oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Exactly.
Of course.
There's no benefit of there's no benefit of the doubt, right? So that's what I think about related to this conversation.
So how do I reconcile that? How do you maneuver throughout the day with that? You know, Byron, like, every day I walk around with a certain level of post-traumatic stress disorder that I have to maneuver the world with, right? And I've taken this very seriously. I've researched the definitions of post-traumatic stress disorder. I've spoken to doctors who specialize in this thing, who deal with police officers, veterans returning from war, and a lot of black people, just for being black people. I think you just learn to live with it and cope with it. But, you know, in recent years, I think people have started to respect mental health on an equal basis with physical health.
All right, come over around. Let's go. We're gonna go upstairs. What is that?